Hey there, bonjour tout le monde. In this video, I'll be showing you how to paint a Stormcast Eternal in non-metallic metal. Enjoy! I hope you like repainting old minis, because that's what I'll be doing in this video. In my opinion, this is one of the better Stormcast Eternal minis from the early days of Age of Sigmar. I consider this an okay paint job, but I know I can do better now. I tried to duplicate the box art and I really thought I nailed it, but now not so much. So let's strip the paint and give it a fresh coat. Okay, as you can see, this mini is painted in true metallic metal and it's also based, so I need to work thoroughly. First off, let's try to remove the mini from the base. And done. I love the magic of time skip. So now I'll be doing some paint stripping. For this I'll be using Dettol. It's best to use a sealed glass container. It makes it easier to watch the progress. Like I said, I'll be using Dettol. Use the pure one, not the diluted one. Also, you don't need to add any water just yet. Now drown the mini in this magical product. Close the lid. Leave it alone for about 12 to 24 hours. Et voila! I used a normal toothbrush to brush off the paint easily. Now let's give it a new base and a new coat of Chaos Black Primer. Wow, looking better already. I won't be using the old base, and Chaos Black Primer is my go-to primer. It's great and I never had any issues with it. Now is also a great time to take some reference photos. Take some photos under your desk light. I would advise you to take about 4 pictures from 4 different angles. Here are the ones I used. Front, left side, back side, right side. Now, let's get to painting. The non-metallic colors I'll be using are Games Workshop Abaddon Black, Vallejo English Uniform, Vallejo Green Brown, Vallejo Dark Yellow, Vallejo German Yellow, Vallejo Ice Yellow, great color in my opinion, some ivory, and very little of cold white. First coat is a mixture of Abaddon Black with English Uniform. I prefer to cover the whole mini with this dark tone. The darker the better. I used an old brush for the first step. Now I'll be adding some more English Uniform to the mix. I'll also be using another brush. I'm a big fan of the Wolf Bristle brushes by Chronicore RPG. For large parts, I'll be using the size 2. By adding English Uniform to the mix, you'll start adding highlights. With painting non-metallic metal, I myself prefer to work from the darkest color toward the brightest color. Make sure to paint all parts you want highlighted. It's okay to cover 90% of the previous part. The next step is pure English Uniform. Now we'll be seeing more contrast. English Uniform is my go-to color for sketching the highlights. Don't forget also to do the edge highlighting with each brighter color. Next step is using green brown. You can highlight it with pure green brown or decide to make a 50-50 mixture with English Uniform to make the blending the blendiest of blends. Again, you're covering the previous layer. Try to think about where the highlight should be placed. Think about the reference pictures you took. The chest armor contains a lot of different edges and is really an eye catcher, so I try not to rush this part. Often a viewer of your mini will be focused on a couple of details, mainly the head, weapons and torso. Because I prefer to dilute my paint with water, or often with Lamy and medium, I might add another layer on parts I already did, just to be sure the highlight is strong enough. Now using a 00 size brush. The details that I'll be painting next are even smaller. Add dark yellow to the previous mix. Try to focus on the parts that should be brighter, and take your time. Again, you might want to mix dark yellow with the green brown to make a smooth transition between the two colors, or use a thinned down dark yellow. Take your time when painting the important elements of the mini, mainly head, weapons and torso. Now we'll up the brightness by adding German yellow. Like previous layer, you can do a mixture of dark yellow and German yellow, or multiple layers of thinned down German yellow. Did I already mention, take your time when painting the 3 important elements of this miniature? You know I did. Now add my go-to color for non-metallic metal, ice yellow. Having worked up towards ice yellow, it's getting quite nicely. Now let's paint the whole armor. Let's fast forward a bit, shall we? Later in the video, I'll share how to paint the other parts of this mini. So you might have noticed I started on the back and highlighted the front with very little of ice yellow and ivory mix. Often you'll see that miniatures in non-metallic metal tend to only look good at one angle. By taking a picture of your Black Prime Mini earlier from multiple angles, you'll get a great reference image. Let's continue with the other angles, and then we'll start painting the other parts of this mini. So now, with most of the gold non-metallic metal out of the way, I would like to show you how to paint the other stuff. Because the inside of his cave thingy is white, I'm giving it a thin layer of celestial grey. This will make it easier to get it brighter later on. With a nice layer of celestial grey, I'll tackle the blue elements now. Painting all that gold non-metallic metal had me wanting to see different colors on my wet palette. Start off with Cantor Blue and very little Abaddon Black in the mix. Cantor Blue in itself is quite dark. Use pure Cantor and gradually add more and more Lothern Blue. For highlights, I'm adding more and more Lothern Blue, but before going any lighter than Lothern Blue, I just add a little drop of ice yellow mixed in with Lothern Blue. Now I'm adding the ice yellow to the Lothern Blue mix. I prefer not to make the mixture too yellow, just slightly lighten the color. Now start adding more and more white. Things like clothing won't get any white, but blue metallic parts will get some white in the mix, and even on certain very highlighted spots it will get little dots of pure white. With the blues done, we are going to continue to paint one of the harder colors, namely white. Let's start by using Celestial Grey for the lightning bolt's emblem. We start adding white to the mix. You might add a very small amount of ice yellow, but I didn't. These lightning bolts are very small in surface and not that important. I hope you like it so far. I myself am quite happy with the results so far. Let me show you my go-to recipe for parchment. Zendri dust mixed in with English uniform. With the base color done, I'll add some more shade. Yes, using shades is great. Don't believe some painters on the internet. I like using them for smaller things, especially non-eye catchers. For shading, I tend to use my old and damaged brushes. I'll use Agrax Earthshade and paint the parchment and groin cloth. Now smear this magic stuff on the mini and try to avoid touching the blues. Pooling? I don't mind. If it darkens the lattice, that's okay. Drown those things, but let it dry afterwards to avoid coffee-like stains. The Agrax Earthshade has done its work. And now I'll take a thinned down Sandry Dust and English Uniform mix and do some touch-ups around the letters and where the highlights are. By adding very little Vallejo Ivory or GW's Screaming Skull, you can start with the brighter highlights. As you can see, it's starting to look quite right. You could also add a very little bit of eyeshadow, but on this mini I just added more and more ivory to the mixture. Now on to painting the metallics quick and easy. With just neutral grey, Abaddon black, eyeshadow, cold white, perhaps with a little bit of Calidor Sky and Morphan brown for a bit more color. But those last two colors, I'm not sure I'll be using them. We start off with the dark mix of Abaddon black and neutral grey. Make sure you have a nice solid coat. Start adding more neutral grey to the mix to create the highlights. Add more neutral grey each step until you have pure neutral grey. Then you can start adding a drop of eyeshadow. Mind you, this is to brighten the color. Don't make it too much yellow. Just create a brighter, neutral grey color. Let's go towards white now. Add a bit of ivory to your previous neutral grey eyeshadow mix. Be careful not to overdo it. Should you want to, go as bright as possible by using pure cold white. Go ahead, but do it only at the sharpest and brightest edges. I did the small hammers with the same paints as the large hammer. And with the metallics mostly done, we'll be finishing the inside of the cape. I based it already with Celestial Grey, but now I'll continue with a couple of other colors. Vallejo Black, Pale Blue Grey Pale, and Ice Yellow. Start off with a mixture of Vallejo Black and Blue-Gray Pale. I'm covering the whole thing. Celestial Ground provided a solid light-colored cover. Now work yourself towards more Blue-Gray Pale in the mixture. Keep the paint thin for nice gradual transitions. Pretty good. By adding pale blue gray in the mix, you will go even brighter. Let's go. Sorry, by the way, for my head blocking the view from time to time. Try working towards pure pale blue gray. Create a mix now of pale blue gray and a very small amount of ice yellow. Yet again, make it so slightly just to brighten the color. Try not to turn it completely yellow. You could, but I won't. And by adding a bit of white for the extreme highlights, you're mostly done. Now let's paint the weapon handles. Heck yeah! Screamer pink and Cadian flesh tones are your friends. Screamer pink serves as a base color, and you add small amounts of Cadian flesh tone for the highlights. Finishing with pure Cadian flesh tone. Let's brighten the color even more by, you know it, adding a drop of ice yellow. You know the drill by now, just a little bit. You might even add some white, but try to limit the areas where you use it. Almost finished. Are you still with me? Now let's paint the black areas. We'll be using Dark Reaper and Parisian Grey. Both colors are from Games Workshop. And you're guessing probably ice yellow. Well, you're right. Let's get to work. Start adding Parisian Grey to the Dark Reaper mix. Add a small amount of ice yellow when you almost reached the pure Parisian Grey. It's a wrap, everyone. The mini is finally done. Well, mostly. I might do some touch-ups and basing later on, but that's for another video. Here's a side-by-side shot of what it used to be and what it's now. I hope you might consider this an improvement. I know I do. Fini. This video is done. If you like this video, please press the like button. If you want, you might even want to subscribe. If there's any suggestions or question about this video, please post it in the comment section. I would be happy to hear it from you. Also, if you like my work, please follow me on Instagram at PaintFrenchie. There you can see more of my work. And you might also want to contact me if you like my work or have questions. For now, I hope you have a great day, and please, please, please hope to see you soon in the future. Goodbye everyone. Au revoir tout le monde.